Hello, it's Ruby, and today I'm going to share 10 study habits which you might want to bring into the new academic year. I just finished my Masters at Oxford University, and these are things which have helped me the whole way through my undergraduate degree and my Master's degree. Top things I would really recommend you bringing into the new academic year. Having good habits is at the very heart of being productive and maximising your potential as a student and just making the most out of the education that you have. When you have easy routines and practices that you can fall back on, it just becomes easier to keep on top of things.
Before we start the video, this is just a quick reminder that the academic planner is now live. As always, I'm just so excited to share this with you. I've designed it to be the perfect planner for students with everything in it you might need, and this year we've also got it in 4 different colours, which is incredibly fun.
Number 1, mini commonplace books for all of your essays. I love using these mini passport notebooks from Muji. They're probably about 40 pages total, and while I'm working on an essay, I will keep this with me at all times, and whenever I come across a piece of information, whenever I have an idea, whenever something just like clicks in my brain, I will write it in here. From one side I have thoughts and questions and just random jottings and ideas, and then on the other side I have headings where I will write down key facts as I come across them. This is so useful because you never know where something interesting and relevant is going to pop up. It could be in a TV show, it could be in a book that you're reading for pleasure, it could be at a lecture which is unrelated. And it's so easy to like hear something and then think, oh, I'll write that down later, but if you've got this with you, then you can just write it down then and you won't forget. I think it's also a really fun way to keep immersed in the essays that you're writing and the research that you're doing. It acts as a little like talisman, like a little reminder, physical reminder of the fact that you're working on this essay. When I say it like that, it sounds quite daunting, but I think there's something quite wonderfully romantic about that too. There's nothing quite like getting fully immersed in a piece of research, and this commonplace book is just one part of that. Number 2, read an article every morning before you start studying. It should be an academic article, but it doesn't have to be relevant to anything you're studying. This really fits into irresponsible reading, reading widely, reading a variable amount of literature, which again, as with the commonplace book, helps with synoptic thinking. Don't know about you, but when I'm researching, I will always come across articles that I want to read, but they're not really relevant, so I put it to one side because I really should focus on what I'm actually researching. But this is an excuse to read all of those articles, but also just like widen your base of knowledge, really explore the things that interest you, and therefore develop your own research interests, which should be one of your main goals at university, like finding what you're interested in and really running with that. On the same grain, habitually make sure that you are reading the recommended literature from your tutors. So when you're given a reading list, you will often be given like the required reading, and then there'll be suggested recommended reading, and I would strongly advise every single week to read at least one thing from the recommended and suggested, because in a seminar that will give you something maybe slightly different to talk about, because everyone would have read the required text but not everyone will have read these, and these have been recommended for a reason. Like, your tutors know the scholarship which is new and upcoming and most exciting, and so if you can be reading that literature, then you're going to just become like more immersed and more involved in what you're studying, which can never be a bad thing. Number 3, whenever you read a primary source, whenever you do a primary piece of reading, whenever you research something new, mind map your thoughts before reading the secondary material. So I'm an English student, so of course I'm going to be speaking from that, but let's say that you read a letter from a historic figure. Before doing any research, just make a very quick mind map, 5 minutes of your key thoughts and things that you find interesting, because it's so valuable to just synthesize and get a sense of your initial thoughts before being influenced by any other critical sources, because inevitably you will be influenced by them, but when you read them, just a great way for honing thinking skills, which is one of the most important, valuable things at university. Number 4, use a referencing manager. I did not do this the whole way through my undergraduate degree, and then when I started my master's, I had actually so many people online saying, Ruby, please just use a referencing manager. I'd always been so against the idea because I was scared that it was going to be really hard to use, that it would mess up my referencing, but it was the best thing I did, and I do not know how I would have done my referencing for my dissertation without Zoto. I'm not sponsored, but Zoto is a free referencing manager, and you add it as a Chrome extension, and then anytime you read an article, you can just click like add to bibliography, and it puts all of your sources in one place. It's so great, and then you can export your bibliography and choose the referencing style that you have. Sometimes there are problems with it, like it's not always 100% accurate. So for my dissertation, like it probably took about 3 hours once I'd exported the bibliography to go through and check for errors and make sure everything was fine. But really, like that's nothing compared to how much time it usually takes to reference. And I also love it as a corpus of everything you've read, so you can search in the search bar like a particular critic and see what else you've maybe read or come across by that same critic. 4B is also related to referencing, and it's to write down page numbers whenever you write down a quote. So if you take a quote from a book, whether it's a primary source or a secondary source, just always add bracket, page number, close bracket. Like it's so simple to add, but it will save you so much time in the long run. Number 5, and so important, talk about what you are learning, because talking and dialogue helps us understand things. It's talking and conversing which allows us to synthesize our ideas and really come to like more solid conclusions and just understand why we are arguing something, or like see the flaws in our argument, because it's as soon as we say them aloud that we realize what things maybe need more work, what things we haven't thought about properly.
Like as characters, because if it's a mask, then you would expect it to be that they're to some extent embodying their own identity. What do you think about that?
This idea, like the importance of dialogue, is so rooted in the way that education works at Oxford specifically. It's a very dialogue heavy like learning environment, and I think it's being in that learning environment that I've realised just how important dialogue is, and how useful it is for forming opinions and forming arguments. The undergraduate teaching, of course, they've got a tutorial system where you will have a tutor, one tutor to every like 2 to 3 undergraduates, and every week undergraduates will meet with the tutor and discuss the material, like the topic that they're going to be doing that week. I obviously never did that because I wasn't an undergraduate at Oxford, but in those settings it's not lecturing, it's talking about it, it's questioning ideas. Like the tutors are constantly questioning the ideas. Number 6, keep a list of questions. Asking good questions is one of the most important and valuable skills. Voltaire says, judge a man by his questions, not by his answers. And then actually go and ask these questions. Use your office hours if your tutors have them. If you have a question, ask it, or ask it in your seminars. Again, a great quote from, I'm going to actually read it off because I can't remember it verbatim, but Confucius says, the man who asks a question is a fool for a minute, the man who does not ask is a fool for life. Then number 7, read regularly. This is such a basic one, but also just so important. Like, just read. Read whatever you can. There are so many benefits to reading, aside from things like improving your vocabulary, like mental health benefits. So just read. You're gonna lie down and read, Lola. Shall we? Nope. No? So insulting. Number 8, make a study plan at the beginning of every week and just add in vague dates when you want to get certain things done. So at the beginning of the week, write a to-do list, a long weekly to-do list of everything you've got to get done, and then just divvy it up between each of the days. It doesn't have to be like a full plan for every single day, but just having a vague idea of what you're going to do on each day and just investing that like short amount of time into planning can really relieve stress throughout the rest of the week. I find that when I've got a lot to do and I don't plan ahead, it can become quite stressful because you're not sure if you're going to be able to get everything done. But if you have already mapped it out and you've already made a plan, you can trust yourself that you've got the time to get it done, and you can actually see it in your planner of like, okay, I can get this done. And I think more than anything, that's just very comforting, and it means that you can focus on your work without at the same time being distracted by the impending doom of like everything you've got to get done. Then number 9, organize all of your files at the end of the week, maybe on Friday or Sunday. So all of your paper files, all of your digital files, like go through your seminar notes, etc., make sure they're all tidy. Investing just an hour into this every week will make sure that you don't lose anything. And I think that when you are organized and when your notes are organized, it's easier to motivate yourself. Like you can feel more on top of things, and maybe even more on top of things than you actually are. Really, the main benefit to having a good organization system for your notes is to make everything elegant and make everything easy, because you really want to like be focusing your energy on research, on thinking, and not on finding a specific article or file that you know you put somewhere but you don't know where. So it's just a way of like preserving energy for things that are more important if you've got a really good organization system where you can easily find things. And then finally, number 10, this is something I have said before, but I think it's really important, so I'm just going to stress it again. But as you're going through the year, keep a list of ideas and theses and things that you would like to research more. Maybe bigger questions that you have where that you've identified a gap in the scholarship, and try and do this after every single class or at least at the end of every week. Jotting down and having a list of these things means that when you're then coming to write an essay, when you've got to decide on a topic for an essay, you've already got a list of things that you are interested in that you could focus on, because one of the hardest things when it comes to writing an essay is like suddenly in the space of a few days having to decide what you're going to write. And if you've got this list already, then it becomes so much easier. I've done this since my second year of university, and it works really, really well, so I would highly recommend doing that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.